Wally, what finish did you use on that?
Wipe on, wipe off finish. There's a lot of varnish in it. I love it. I mean, it's as close, it's nowhere close to being like a French polish, but you get that effect, you know, and you can keep building and building. You know, when you're cutting through this grain like this, you're cutting through the tube, so this is actually end grain. And to ever fill that 100%, you're looking at a plasticky looking finish, and this doesn't have that. It's just
so no grain
exactly
filler, right?
What I want, you know, it's exactly what I want. But I'm gonna back up just a little bit. Frank mentioned his board not being centered, and I'm gonna explain what that's all about. If you look at either side of this dresser, there's a bullseye right in the middle.
Yeah, I know.
And this grain, the annular rings are creating, it's actually following this sweep really nicely. And that's totally intentional. That's not an accident. That's picking your board and cutting the right way with the board. Okay, I'm going to show you exactly. Now, when I built this dresser, I did a quick little test. Okay, these are the pieces I cut back then. And if you look at the end grain, and I'll pass these around, we'll keep them together, okay? You'll see the annular rings on the end of this board are off-center. Well, what that does, when you look at the face of it, you'll see that the bullseye is off-center. So I needed the annular rings in the middle, right in the middle of this board. Or I needed enough extra width to make sure that I cut it centered with that, the annular rings. So in the book, Lance Patterson's article, Fine Woodworking, he did the exact opposite that I did. He had the annular rings going the other way, and you'll see the effect that you get. It's the opposite effect, and it actually counters this front curve. And I didn't think it looked good. Okay, so this was my choice to cut it with the rings, and you'll see as you pass these around, you look at the ends of them, and then look at the faces and see the difference of what they do.
So Wally, you mentioned that was all cut out of one board. Can you describe that board for us?
This board, yeah, every public face of this dresser is cut from a board of 12-quarter mahogany that was 26 inches wide and 20 feet long.
Wow.
I had a little left over at the end, but nothing long enough to replace a side or a top or a bottom. Every piece, public piece, the face, all came out of the same board, which Frank said, oh, that can't be the same board, but it really was, I promise you. This was facing the sun wherever they had it, and it bleached out in front. I almost stripped it and started over, but no.
I think it looks good that way.
I love it, I love it.
I like the way he
So
did it.
anyway,
Big time.
the board
Absolutely agree with
was
him.
this wide plus a little bit. So this front here was a slip match from over here that I had to bring over, so that, you know, if you look closely, all of the grain in these cross rails is following the drawer fronts, because they come out in the sequence in the width. Everything comes out in the sequence, except this one. I mean, it's a good match, but it's not a dead match. But that's what you have to live with. You would have had to have had a like a 32-inch board.
Had to make it 100 years earlier, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
So you did all that beading by hand, right? And then tell them about how you did that hardware.
Okay, the hardware.
Yeah, how'd you get it to conform to those
You can't
curves?
just bolt
Yeah.
that on.
No.
That's a process called repose, and it's done with an antler hammer. This is an old process that started in France, and it's known as repose. It's changing, and it doesn't take brute force. It's lots and lots of little taps. you're changing the molecular structure of that piece of brass. You're just moving it around, and you're doing it in a sandbag. You got a sandbag in your piece of brass, and it's a very long process of lots of little taps, and you bring it, you hold it up there, and of course you're doing this before you have a finish on here. It's, you're going to scratch everything up, because at first it doesn't fit, and then you just keep working it and working it and working it. I probably have 3 days.
You don't do it to a template, you just do
No, you
it
do it to the drawer
to the
front.
drawer, so you just back and forth, right?
Yeah, back and forth, but you obviously don't beat it on the drawer front. Now, the sand deadens the blow, and that's how that's done. It's called repose. And don't ask me how I came across exactly the right tool, this antler hammer, but that is a repose hammer. You can pass that around too.
Wow.
Pretty cool hammer.
Is it actually made of hammer?
I didn't make the hammer.
It's, yes, it's an antler, right?
Oh no, it's an antler.
Yeah, you can see it.
Yeah. The cock beating, which is very, very tedious. This is non-plied, of course. It's all the same piece of wood. And this is cut with, guess what it's called? It's called a cock beating tool. And this one's made by Lee Nielsen. It's
Yeah.
one of a few that I have. But I had to do some modifications to it with wood. These pieces of wood, I had glued them here with some cyrenacrylate glue, and later broke them off to do a different operation. But I have a right and a left hand curve shape that goes on this fence, and that's because as you're doing this beading, you're not only following the curve in this direction, you're angling it. So what are you riding on? You're riding on angled curved surfaces. So their straight things weren't going to work. So I added those little pieces of wood, and that did the trick. But everything was a process and a solution. And I'm just going to say this about any complex piece of furniture. It's step by step. It's not that hard. Everything is a process in itself. You take it one step at a time, and it's a challenge, but you can pull it off. You just can. And no matter what it is, it's one step at a time.
Right.
Can I say this too? For a piece that's meant to go up against the wall, you guys should check out the back.
Yeah, I saw the back. Yeah, it's raised panels. Beautiful raised panels.
Carved
Yeah.
If you don't see it already, go home right now. If you didn't see the back of this yet, go home right now. You're in the wrong crowds.
Yeah.
Or go over and look at the
Don't
back.
move it. Don't move it. If you didn't see it, the hell with them.
Careful.
Frank, you're such a trip. Oh my God.
Now I'm going to tell you why this back is so beautiful.
And notice the difference in color again, right? I mean,
Yeah, this wasn't getting as much.
yeah, that's
You see the panels are book matched. Even this one is. It started out. There's a center seam here, so it's book matched.
that's probably closer to the original color, I bet.
This was
Right.
because I tell everyone that it's because the customer wanted to be able to put it out in the middle of the room. That's BS. This is because I didn't want to see this project end. And that's really the truth. I
Oh,
didn't
man.
want to see it end. I could have put a piece of plywood there.
No.
No.
No. No.
No. But yeah, look closely. These are not router cuts. All these ends are hand carved. Look at it, router won't do that. So check
No.
that out.
Is the back actually closer to the original color, though, Wally? Yeah, I would assume because it's a much redder color than the browner colors around the the sides in the front, right?
What's that?
No, I was going to say the back, because it's had less light, has the more richer reddish color of the mahogany, I think, than some of the
Yeah,
other.
it's definitely more like
Yeah.
it was when it was original.
Yeah.
I was disappointed But,
Was it taken care of?
no. No, the top was really badly gouged, like they
Oh.
put candelabras or something. up
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Just- I got a lot of wood
So you
to work
could
with.
work, yeah, you could refinish it, yeah.
There was a chunk missing out of this corner that if you come and look close, you'll see the Dutchman I put in there. And some deep gouges in one of the legs that I think happened in all this shipping back and forth. But it could have been much, much worse.
Well,
I was really worried about some of the cockpieting getting,
that would be harder to fix.
that'd be really hard to fix.
Yeah.
So,
And I assume you just reapplied water locks on top of the areas that you refinished, right?
well, yeah, I stripped this whole top down to bare wood.
Yeah.
It had some pretty.
So what do you have, like 20 coats on that thing or something, or what?
Right now, there's maybe a dozen,
Okay.
and I'm gonna put a couple more. I didn't finish the top. I didn't push it for this meeting, but a couple more coats, and then a nice coat of wax, and it'll go home.
All right.
And won't that be a nice thing? That'll be nice.
So when you use that many coats of water locks, does it actually end up being a grain filler as well? It like
Well,
levels it?
It can.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do that. I don't like that look.
It's
I
too
don't
flat,
want-
right?
I don't want it to look like plastic.
Gotcha.
I like to see that it's wood. It's got a nice leathery kind of feel
Yeah.
to it. And feel free to feel it. I mean, this piece is meant to be felt with hands, you know, it's just something about it.
What type of process do you have to do in between coats?
Between coats?
Yeah.
The first couple coats, nothing. It soaks right in.
Yeah.
And then as it starts to build, I do a light stuff. And I know.
There is a DVD out there, wood finishing with Frank Klaus.
Yeah.
Buy them and
Where's
you're
your
gonna
bag?
get the same finish. You
I don't have that one.
Shame on you.
I've got the hand-cut Dovetail DVD though, Frank. I do have that.
No, Frank's absolutely right. But it was just a great thing tonight. This side, I was really not happy. I had waxed the whole thing for tonight, and this whole side was like streaky, and I couldn't get it out, and Frank got it out.
Yes, he did.
So I am honored that Frank did that for me.
Did he tell you how you got it?
I watched
We
it.
watched him do it.
He owns the DVD.
I was actually a little nervous about hitting it with
4.0
with
steel
the
wool, right?
Steel wool at that
Yeah.
point because I didn't know how much finish was actually there anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think he would let very few of you touch that with a steel wool.
no.
He was holding my shirt.
Is that what you had to do?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Wow.
it's all about, I don't know, and maybe it's, like I say, it's a blessing and a curse. It's about pride with me. I'm proud of what I do, and
It's amazing you got it back. It really
Yeah, I
is.
got it back.
It's amazing
Yeah.
you got it back.
yeah, it didn't have to go that way. It didn't have to happen that way. It just,
It's a little drama. Hey, what's a little drama, right?
well, the most beautiful thing was that it didn't sell in auction for a big number,
That's a good thing.
because I wouldn't have gotten it back.
Well, you know, forgive me, unfortunately we live in the world of IKEA. People don't really appreciate the value of really well-made furniture, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, so, you know.
That's true.
It's great to have a great piece of furniture with a great story.
Oh, yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
It's not just a great piece of furniture, but you got a great story to go with it.
Yeah.
That's true.
It meant a lot to my whole family when this happened. You know, I got this little trophy and $1,000 for the prize, but it wasn't about that.
No. There's
Um,
pride.
It's about
Absolutely.
what my dad wrote in his book to me. It's about what this gentleman, Albert Sack, wrote in his book to me. That meant a
It's
lot.
amazing.
What that board cost you?
You know, I don't really remember.
What the hell is the difference? What the hell is the difference?
You'd have a hard time finding that board right now.
Yeah.
Where did you find
This was
it?
Honduras mahogany. This isn't.
No.
What they pay for these slabs.
It's not Sapili you could buy, right?
$10,000 for one walnut slab. And they sell the table for 70,000. I heard 90,000, one
For
slab.
conference table.
And how easy, shit, that's no woodworking. You
Yeah.
make it straight, you sand it, you put some finish on it, and you have a Nakashima is not a woodworker. It's sand a piece of wood and put some finish on it. That's not woodworking, that's carpentry. It's never made any joinery. Nakashima piece of sand.
Oh, yeah, I had to create a place for it. Yeah, I've had time to do that too in this whole process. I've got this one corner all, my son?
No, is your son in that one?
No, no, it won't get direct sun, no.
So is your son becoming a great woodworker, or is he better?
No, my son is a very talented guy. He worked for us, Terry and
Yeah?
Dan, did you ever work with Leif? Yeah, he's a really good kid and he loved woodworking, but it wasn't his thing. It wasn't his forte.
Right.
But he was good at it. I mean, he was a good helper for everybody
Yeah.
and he's made some nice pieces of furniture and, but, I mean, he's multi-talented. He's got a lot of things going on. But,
He'll come back to it yet, watch.
oh no, he's still doing it for
Oh,
fun.
yeah.
And that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
Hobbyist woodworkers got it all, right? It's tough living. It's a tough living.
Yeah. Tell me about it.
Anyway,
And you carve the feet
I
yourself?
did, yes. Yeah, there's pictures of me in here, yeah, somewhere, carving. And that was a first for me. Who's the guy that put out the video on carving the ball and clawfoot?
Low?
Phil Lowe. I bought Phil Lowe's video, and it was very helpful to me. I learned about in-cannel spoons, and you know, it only takes a couple of chisels to do that. You don't need a lot of tools. But these were the tools for actually carving the ball within the claws. And then this was a tool that is very underrated. This is called a macaroni tool. I don't know if you've seen it. I thought it was a joke. What macaroni tool? Well, this macaroni tool is how you get in here and guide right on the cock bead. You're actually using the side of the tool to hollow these out. This is all hand carved out. Very scary, tedious, but that's the tool to do it. It's called a macaroni tool. I thought they were kidding. But my brother Mark, who's a pretty good carver, he said, "Oh, you got to do that with a macaroni tool." I said, "What?"
And he did.
Really? I thought he was kidding, but no, it worked great. But man, everything you do, your heart's in your mouth, because if you slip,
Yeah, you
how
get
do you fix
no
that?
recourse, right?
You can't replace this piece.
No.
It's part of this sequence, you know?
That would keep me up at night.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. But, again, labor of love. Anyway, hope everyone looked around and saw some of the other nice things that we're doing in here. We're pretty proud of all the work that we've been doing this year. Been a good year.
Thank God for that.
Hopefully we'll have another good one.
Yeah.
But,
If people haven't made it back to the office to see the bar that Wally designed and we built,